Since its inception, Antiques Roadshow has been a reliable, albeit low-key, moneymaker for its network. For more than 2 decades, fans have tuned in to see what things, such as vintage sewing machines, paintings, toys, and jewelry are worth. Sometimes what people believe are genuine historical artifacts or priceless treasures end up being worthless replicas. Other times, what unsuspecting owners think are just novelty knickknacks turn out to be one-of-a-kind and extremely valuable works of art. Antiques Roadshow is currently on its 26th season. The series' simple yet irresistibly charming premise has earned it a devoted following over the years. But not everything you see on screen is exactly as it appears. In this video, we'll be taking a look at a few hidden secrets from behind the scenes of Antiques Roadshow that fans won't see on TV. Your chance of getting on the show are quite low. Throughout each season of Antiques Roadshow, at least before COVID-19, the show's production team visits 6 cities for taping between June and August. At each one of these events, organizers appraise between 6,000 and 10,000 items. Around 4,000 people are selected randomly from a pool of online applicants for a ticket. Each lucky ticket holder can bring up to 2 objects for evaluation. Of these 4,000 people, only about 80 are chosen for inclusion. Since 2019, the average was roughly 30 items per episode out of a pool of about 5,000 pieces. Items that have the greatest chance of being featured on the show are typically intriguing with a fascinating backstory. On top of that, the appraiser also needs something riveting to say about the items. Unlike most other reality shows, there isn't some kind of board of producers that makes decisions about what content makes it on the air. It's the appraisers themselves that petition the producers to feature the items based on how interesting they find them to be. An item can't simply be valuable. It also needs to be compelling enough to make for good television. Previously, the show has passed on featuring valuable pieces of art worth upwards of $500,000 just because their backstories weren't very appealing. So, if you really want to make it on the show, you both have to be extremely lucky and have something super unusual tucked away in your attic with one heck of a history. In 2020, the producers were forced to switch up their tried-and-true formula after COVID took the world by storm. That year's tour ended up being canceled. Instead, the show's appraisers visited a number of celebrities to discuss and appraise their belongings. 4 episodes were made in this format, which aired in 2021. For the 2021 tour, the appraisers returned to working with everyday people, but segments were not filmed on location at large, crowded events. Instead, guests at each tour stop were invited to have their items appraised on closed sets. A set of dealers were accused of fraud in 2001. In March of 2001, a duo of antique dealers were indicted on federal mail and wire fraud charges after they were accused of staging phony appraisals on Antique Roadshows to boost their reputations as Civil War-era weapons and military artifact experts. Russell Pritchard III and his associate George Juno of Pennsylvania were accused of faking the televised appraisals of several items in 1996 by arranging for their friends to come on the show and present the objects. In reality, they had already rehearsed the entire thing and knew full well the value of the antiques. In 2009, Pritchard pled guilty to the scam and was sentenced to a lengthy prison sentence. In 2020, he pled guilty to additional theft charges for stealing antiques worth more than $100,000. If convicted, he could face up to 24 years in jail. Appraisals are provided free of charge. While it might be difficult to actually get on the show, all ticket holders still receive a free appraisal for their 2 items. Antique appraisals typically cost between $250 to $300 per item, so this still ends up being a pretty decent benefit even if ticket holders don't get selected for airtime. Appraisers are given time to research the items. While clearly the appraisers on Antiques Roadshow are experts, it would be impossible to know all the little details about each and every item that comes their way. Once an antique has been selected to be featured on the program, appraisers are given somewhere between 5 and 30 minutes to do a bit of fast research to come up with information to share when the cameras are rolling. The appraisers aren't always right. With so many items to look at every year, it would be impossible for the appraisers not to make a few mistakes. In 2016, the show experienced a bit of embarrassment after a jug featuring a disfigured face was presented for appraisal by expert Stephen Fletcher. After identifying the jug as a rare piece of collectible pottery dating back to the late 19th or early 20th century, Fletcher declared it to be worth between $30,000 and $50,000. In reality, however, the jug, which was acquired at an estate sale for $300, turned out to be an Oregon high school student's art project from the 70s. After a friend of the actual artist, Bend, Oregon resident Betsy Sewell, told her about the jug's appearance on the show, she contacted PBS to inform them about the mistake. Fletcher later reevaluated his estimate and valued the jug between $3,000 and $5,000. Before we tell you more about Antiques Roadshow, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. The most valuable antique ever featured on the show might surprise you. Throughout its 26-year history, many valuable and priceless items have found their way onto the show, so it's a bit difficult to determine what constitutes the most valuable. Regardless, a few items have been appraised on the program that clearly are something special. For example, in 2018, a 1904 painting entitled El Albañil, or The Laborer, by Mexican artist Diego Rivera, was valued at $1.2 to $2.2 million by appraiser Colleen Fesco. When originally evaluated in 2012, Fesco appraised the painting at $800,000 to $1 million, but she updated the value to reflect the prices of other works by the artist. One has even sold for $9.7 million. They'll move bulky furniture for guests. A rare baseball card or painting might be easy enough to pack up and take to a taping, but you might wonder how giant pieces of furniture end up getting at the events. If the appraisers find an item to be interesting enough, they'll request the show move it for the guests for free. Ticket holders can submit photos of their belongings to the show's producers before a taping. If they're selected, a crew will come and pick it up for them at no charge, provided they live within a 60-mile radius of the taping location. And yes, they'll pack it up and deliver it back for them afterwards. There's a strict dress code. Producers of Antiques Roadshow have one rule for guests on the program. If selected for taping, a guest cannot wear any item of clothing that incorporates a corporate or brand logo. This is because the show would have to petition the company to get clearance to display these logos. Some items are forbidden. An item's high value doesn't necessarily mean it's a shoo-in to be featured on the program. Appraisers are free to refuse to assess an item if it's something that falls into one of several categories. Prohibited items include fossils, tools, currency, motor vehicles, stock certificates, stamps, explosives, ammunition, or anything else potentially hazardous. One of the most interesting prohibited items are glass fire extinguishers. These fragile objects, also known as fire grenades, were thrown into fires in the 1800s to help extinguish blazes. They contain the poisonous chemical carbon tetrachloride, which probably shouldn't be handled by anyone. Even so, some fire grenades have been sold at auction for up to $2,000. Now it's time to hear from you. What's the wildest item you've ever seen on Antiques Roadshow? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content. By the way, if you haven't joined Facts First as a member yet, be sure to look below this video and click the join button. By becoming a paid member of Facts First, you'll get access to exclusive video content that you won't find anywhere else. This includes some of our more mature content that isn't suitable for public audiences, which includes topics like Hollywood actresses who posed for Playboy and some of the steamiest moments in movie history.